Welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, a place where Milts can connect to one another to inspire, motivate, and collaborate to continue to build a strong and well-connected alumni association. I believe that Milton Hershey School rebranding is actually just getting started, and I want to be part of that journey. I think the best way to commemorate Milton and Catherine Hershey is to continue our own legacy that impacts the world as Milton Hershey so impacted us. I believe the level of extraordinary that each and every Milt carries within them is deeply underestimated, and this podcast will help in the journey to show off what Milts are really made of. I'm excited to get to know more Milts, more insight to their upbringing, and what they're doing now to build their legacy and bring value to others, and what being a Milt really means to them. Today I'm talking with Marilyn Weaver, class of 2003. Marilyn has worked in the social services field for over 10 years. Currently, she owns Marlo Co, a photography business, and Marilyn L Weaver, a life coaching business. While working in social services, Marilyn experienced burnout. She took time off to restore and to heal, which allowed her to then step back into social services. This experience, however, created a passion in her to encourage and help other women recover from burnout by helping them to create a self-care plan. Along with traditional photography services, Marilyn embraces educating and mentoring others. She co-hosts the Self-Portrait online workshop, which teaches you how to take high-quality photos with your cell phone. Marilyn is also a co-host for the Broken Beauty podcast. That podcast is about two friends on a journey of pursuing their dreams as single entrepreneurs who see the beauty in the brokenness. So welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, Marilyn. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Yeah, so that's so cool that you are doing that online workshop for people who want to take, because I am constantly trying to just even get to know my phone, like in all of its awesome capability. And I think no one ever takes the time to actually do any of that.
Yes.
So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump on that next workshop, because I know my phone has so much capability that I don't take advantage of.
Yeah. Well,
So, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and the cool thing is I do it with my friend, and I'm an iPhone user and she's an Android user. So like we can speak to both worlds.
That is very smart. That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because most people are only iPhone or only Android, and I'm Android. So I used to be iPhone, but I went to Android. So that's good that you guys have. That's a very good thing that you guys put together there. So when did you first get to MHS?
I had just turned 16 years old. I actually I was in 9th grade and got my license right before I went in.
Wow. Okay. I don't know why I thought you were so much younger when you got there. So you were a freshman. I think you might be the very first person that I interviewed who was there like 9th grade and on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a really unique experience because you were already in your teens. Mm-hmm. And most people got there so much younger. So you're getting there when it's like we're teens and everyone is even more judgmental and hard to, mend in with people. So what was that? And where did you move? Where did you come to MHS from?
I came from Lancaster County.
Okay. So
yeah. So I actually is from the town of Denver. And when I said Denver, everybody thought it was Colorado.
Right.
So I just switched it to Lancaster County and carried that through college. And so I also came from a conservative background, like the Mennonite background. And so not only was I adjusting to a new school, I also was adjusting to a new culture. And so that was something just to get adjusted to that. It's interesting. Like I think in some ways it made me a more quieter child. I already was a little that way, but I actually got voted the quietest in my graduating class.
How funny.
I had people saying to me, we are in the same grade. You're like, yep, we've been in the same classes for the last couple years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
it's hard. That's hard to come into. It's hard to go to a new school, period, no matter what age, but especially hard to come in as a teenager because a lot of times that's people already have their little cliques and they already have their little friends, and you're just coming in like super brand new. Plus the culture shock that happens at MHS is
Yeah.
like double whammy. Wow. And you have sisters, right? And I know you had sisters that also went to MHS. Did they go before you or after you, or did you all come at the same time?
So we all came at the same time. I was accepted first because of my age.
Okay.
And then by the time I started school, they were also accepted, but I was in a different student home as they were
Okay.
for the first from like August to November. And
Uh-huh.
then they moved me into the same student home,
Okay.
which was really nice to
Yeah,
be with my sisters.
totally. Absolutely. And how many sisters?
I have three sisters. I have a
Okay.
stepsister that did not go to Mount Hershey. So
Okay. And were they all younger than you?
yes, so I'm the oldest.
Wow. Okay. So all of you were in the same student home when
Um,
you lived there? When,
yeah.
oh, wow. And then did you stay in the same student home, or as time went on, did you guys separate?
So we were in a K through 12 home. So
Okay.
we were able to stay together. When I graduated, my house parents went to an elementary age um, student home. So my sisters moved to a high school because they both would have been in high school by
Okay.
then. They moved to a high school home together. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that makes it so much easier and more comfortable when you get to be back in the same student home with your sisters. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, you know that me and Alat were in the same student home
yeah,
for like the first year. But she's so much better with authoritative figures than I am, especially at that age. And my first set of house parents, our first set of house parents were very, very tough. So for me, I was like, out of there. And she stayed. But yeah, we got it for the first year, but then I just couldn't handle that set of house parents. So I was out of there. And she stayed actually the entire time we were at MHS with the same student home, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So after Milton Hershey, did you decide to go to college?
I did. I went to Geneva College, which is an hour northwest of Pittsburgh. I
Mhm.
think their claim to fame is there's a football player. I think Joe Namath is the name. It's from there. I
Uh-huh.
don't know that much about football, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, me either.
Um, yeah, there's a funny story about that. But
But not from Milton Hershey, right? He was just another kid that graduated from that
yeah,
college. How funny. So
yeah,
that's like their,
yeah.
yeah. What'd you study in college?
Um, business management, I started with that. And then through that, I realized that I don't want to do numbers the rest of my life,
Mm,
and talk to somebody and they're like, do you want to work with people or numbers? So I said people, and I switched to human services, which is very similar to social work.
yeah.
And by the time I was finished with my human services degree, they said, you only have a year to finish your business degree. So I graduated with a double major,
Nice.
business management and human services.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And so after college, what did you said you were in social services for 10
Yeah.
years, you said. Did you get into that straight out of college?
I yeah, once I got a job and it took a
Yeah.
couple months.
Yeah.
Uh, I worked at Walmart for a little while first, but
Temporarily. Okay.
yeah. And then I graduated in May. In September, I started working with adults with physical disabilities,
Yeah. Okay.
and then eventually to elderly,
Okay.
and then families experiencing poverty.
Uh,
Um,
so yeah, that's social services is 100% one of the hardest career paths to take because it is, I mean, it's so hard mentally, emotionally. Sometimes you'll have those experiences of like that. I know, like I experienced, I worked in a hospital once, away from the sun shining right on your face. Here we go.
I was gonna say your mic like blurted out.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and I only worked at the hospital for like 1 year, and I could not handle seeing, so many people sick, so many
Mm,
elderly people coming in without anybody there with them. So I can't even imagine you handling 10 years and dealing with so many different areas of hardship in people's life. You have elderly and then families dealing with poverty. That's got to be incredibly hard to have to witness. So tell me more about that. What did you experience and what did you learn through those 10 years?
I honestly loved it. And so when I took a break, in which I'll get into that, I missed it.
Yeah.
But I also needed that break. But it was just something that I learned that everybody has a story, and there's so much more to the story than what they're telling you. And
Yeah.
not always in a bad way. I mean, there are things people do hide. But a lot of times it's a protective mechanism that they're hiding things. Um, or like I'm going in there and asking some very violating questions and personal questions. And to most people initially, I was a stranger.
Yeah.
So, going in and asking how someone does bathing, dressing, have you ever thought of committing suicide? Those are some really hard questions that I don't even want to always ask my friends those questions, let alone having a stranger coming in your home and doing that. But you just see the resilience in people, and which is really cool just to see the problem solving, especially families in poverty.
Yeah. Wow.
They will come up with solutions that you're like, wait,
Yeah.
how?
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. It's
but
that
yeah,
resourcefulness, that they yeah, yeah, growing up, I know a lot of us before Milton Hershey experienced severe poverty or some part of poverty. So I think when we see it in others, we can kind of relate to it,
yeah.
and be humbled by it. That's for sure. Humbling experience to be in that field. I know for sure is very humbling.
Well, and I want to share like a little teaching moment.
Yeah.
Is poverty is the lack of resources in a particular area of life. So it's not just a financial. So
Right.
it could be emotional, spiritual, intellectual. There's 11 resources that Dr. Ruby Payne speaks about.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, like, it just opened my eyes to so much and makes me realize, like, hey, financially I might be okay, but emotionally I'm not, or spiritually I'm not. And so it allows you to relate with someone who can't pay their bills, and you can say, you know what, I may be able to pay my bills, but your support system is amazing compared to what, so there, everyone experiences poverty in a different level.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times that's how we equate poverty. It's, financial ruin or financial, yeah, scarcity.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, like you said, it's all kinds of other things, which is so true.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you say you experienced burnout, what exactly led up to that? And, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, we would definitely appreciate learning.
Yeah. Um, looking back, I wasn't burnt out long before I knew it, put it that way. And I had probably a year before I quit my job, the first time in social services, was I went to church and asked God to wreck me.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back, I'm not really sure why, but I did. And I remember that night during worship just crying. And I knew it was related to my job, but I couldn't pinpoint why.
Yeah.
And um, it seemed like I call them episodes.
Yeah.
So I'd have something like that, and then I would be fine for a little while. And
Yeah.
then I would have another one. And each time they got longer and harder.
Mhm.
Um, and so then also my last year before I took a break, my agency I was at, it was a really, really hard year. And I'm not going to go into the details of that, but it was a really hard year. Basically rocked our foundation as an agency. And it was the first time where my personal life and my past
Mhm.
had collided. And so with that, experiencing that and being in burnout is not a good recipe by any means.
Yeah.
And so March of 2019, um, actually October of 2018, I went into counseling because I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I
Yeah.
can't figure it out and I need help. Like, and so I went into counseling, and gratefully that I did because of what happened at my agency at that time. And then in March of, so the last Tuesday of March of 2019, I don't know the date, but I know it was Tuesday and it was March of 2019. And I was talking to a coworker just about stuff and I'm crying. And I was also going to have a meeting with our then acting CEO. And she walks into my office. I thought I had enough, a few minutes to, like wipe my tears and make it look like I wasn't crying. But she caught on. And for the next hour, I sat there and cried. And just, she talked through and she's like, are you here because of the money? And really, like, that was the first time I admitted to myself that I was in a job for the money. I loved what I did. I loved who I worked for. I loved the community I was in. And so it wasn't like some people say when they go through burnout, they hated their job.
Yeah.
I didn't hate my job. Like, I really loved what I did. But 10 years of seeing trauma, secondhand trauma and stress and things like that finally caught up to me. And so Tuesday, that following Monday, I gave my 6-week notice without a job, without any savings, without, like, I had no plan. Literally, I just knew I had to go, or they were going to visit me on the 8th floor at Lancaster General. And for those that don't know, that's a psych ward. But it's just, I knew that I had to for my own stuff, but I also knew, more importantly, I needed to do it for my clients, because I'm a very straightforward person in general. But when it comes to if I'm in burnout or just agitated or frustrated, my filter comes off very quickly. And so I said things to clients that weren't probably, I could have probably said it in a nicer way looking back. But I knew that if I stayed, it would have hurt them in the long run and hurt me even more. So I left and I decided, I was like, all right, a week. The funny thing is I packed that week so full of things to do. Like, I didn't even take, like, it wasn't like I was going away on a vacation. I was literally doing all these kinds of things. And after that week, I still didn't have a job. I actually had turned down a job. And I just had this feeling of like, I just needed to take time just to be, like, and that was God's way of telling me, like, I need you just to be. And so I did what they tell you never to do, take your money out of your retirement fund. I did it in stages, but took everything out. But I'm young, I can rebuild that. And so it, I did that. And but by doing that and doing odd jobs and doing my own stuff, it allowed me to just be, for one, allowed me to help family and friends at my own time, volunteer in my church, and just things that for me, I had to just exist. And I don't know how else to explain that, but like, I was at the point where I just had to exist. And so often we talk about this buzzword of burnout, and no, you don't really know what it is until you're in it. You've experienced it. And it's just, I boil it down to like just being exhausted, in state of exhaustion, whether it's emotionally, physically, like it could be all that. And so that's where it was. And that summer I took 12 days of vacation by myself, up in near the Finger Lakes. Traveling by yourself is the greatest thing ever.
It really is.
I love it. So, I just did different things like journaling and just things that allowed me. I went on so many different interviews. The crazy thing is, like, I thought this was going to be like a couple month thing,
Yeah.
after just the week thing. And it really wasn't. It was 20 months. It was almost 2 years.
Wow.
It really stretched me,
Yeah.
because it really showed me that I can, for one, scale down and just live on basics, basically.
Yeah.
But it also, I had to call my parents and say, hey, can I move back home? I want to rent that back bedroom,
Yeah.
which was humbling at 30 some years old.
Yeah.
But it really allowed me to take the time that I needed. And thankfully, like, I don't have children, so I was able to take that time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that too. That is, a lot of people go through all those symptoms of burnout and still just don't pull the trigger to do something about it. And then it starts to
Yeah.
affect their health. This starts to come out in different diseases, marital issues, bad relationships with friends, family. It's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
That steam it has to go somewhere. And a lot of times, if we don't take the top off and let it air out, it's going to come out of the edges and it's going to affect everything around us. So it's admiring that you were self-aware enough to know, I need this time off for me. I need to listen to what God is telling me and just be still. It's funny, I have that on a candle that says, be still and know that I am God. Every time I look at it, I'm like, yes, all the troubles and all the struggles and all the challenges and all the pain, I could just think about that verse. And I'm like, and that's, I think, what he's trying to teach us, like, literally be still, stop, we do live way beyond our means mostly. And a lot of times we feel that we have to almost live that way, stay on like this, treadmill of keeping up with everything. But really, we were born to be extremely resourceful, and live below the means. So I'm so glad you were able to do that, to embrace that. And so tell me about how that then created the passion for you to share what you learned and help other people through that.
It just, like, I knew once I was through the bulk of it, I would say, well, part of it was is last February, right before the pandemic, at the end of February, I realized I love photography, but don't want to do it full time. Like, I had been in a career where it was relationship building all this time. I had relationships with most of my clients, and photography didn't give me that, like traditional photography services. And so when I left social work the first time, I felt lost, but I knew where I was headed. Like, I knew I was going to head towards photography. The second time, when I realized that photography wasn't enough for me, I felt completely lost again. Like, I went through that stage of like, am I gonna have mediocre jobs the rest of my life? I'm gonna hate what I'm gonna do. Like I didn't know what was next. And that was part of like me just, and then God kind of dropped some things in while I was journaling, and it took me a while to pick that up, to like realize that, hey, like, life coaching, I think it's something I do want to do, and I do want to share what burnout looks like, because I want to help people before they get to where I was. Because like I said, I was fortunate that I could take that time, but there are some people that literally can't because of their life circumstances. And so just knowing what I've done and just learning, self-care is all these little things we do daily. It could be shutting the phone off for a couple hours, or it could be journaling, it could be reading, or getting up. And recently I've been taking a walk with the dog. And so it's these little things that we do daily, like these vacations and spas, and they're all great and they're
Right.
amazing,
Yeah.
but they are really something that, like, if we live for that, like there's a saying, and I'm not, see if I can remember it correctly. If you build the life, something about building a life, um, that you shouldn't want to work towards vacation. Like it shouldn't always be
Oh,
vacation.
yes, yes, yes. I've seen
Um,
that all around social. You
I, I have.
establish a life where you don't have to go on vacation to get away from or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Um,
Create a lifestyle.
okay, I know. Here it is. Instead of wondering when your next vacation is, maybe you should set up your life. You need to not escape from. Seth Godin said that.
There you go. Yeah. 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 So we're not
So,
constantly wanting to escape our regular life to go on vacation.
right.
Yeah.
Vacation is great, like,
Yeah.
believe me, but it is something that, and my current main employer, they do these things called spiritual retreats. So once a month, we get these retreat days where we can go and just do anything that connects, like that gives us joy,
Mhm.
whether that's connecting us with God or connecting with family, friends. And so that was one of those things of thinking about going back into social services. Was I almost had PTSD thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go into burnout again.
Yeah.
And so um, the reason I'm sharing that is like, even building that one day a month in really helps that,
Yeah.
not to get there.
Yeah.
It's those little things we do that keep
Yeah.
us from,
Yeah.
um,
Totally.
so
And like you said, the daily small things. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be so extravagant to be called self-care.
right.
No, it could be any small little thing,
Yeah.
like enjoying your coffee quietly, sitting
Yeah.
outside if that's what you like, or sitting in your basement if that's what you want. But that 5 minutes of enjoying your coffee could be your self-care. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started the photography business, what year?
I've been in photography for, I don't know, a while,
Yeah.
but official business, I think, was 2017.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I did stuff on the side prior to that. I mean,
Yeah.
but tax year, I believe, was 2017, put it that
Yes, yes,
way.
yes, yes.
And
That's
so, yeah, it was through that,
but you knew
that
you
like,
didn't, this was a passion, but you knew this is not what you wanted to do forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when I last February of 2020.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, yeah, and then I was going into a pandemic, not knowing
Right.
what I'm gonna do.
Right.
And
Now that's gonna affect photography. Yeah.
yeah, and the interesting thing is like the pandemic didn't play a whole lot into that because I ended up picking
Right.
up a temp job. Um, I mean, it played into me losing some jobs
Yeah.
of income, but um, I wouldn't say the pandemic enforced that loss feeling, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
Totally. Give me your mission and your overall vision for your business, the Mary L Weaver, your life coaching business.
it's Marilyn L Weaver. Mary's
Marilyn
my sister.
L. What's that?
Mary's my sister.
No, oh, I'm sorry. I said Marilyn. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Marilyn L Weaver. Yeah, there we go. Marilyn L Weaver.
Um,
Yeah, I probably was just too low there. Marilyn.
yeah,
That's right. You have a sister named Mary.
I do. I do.
Okay.
All right. My mission statement is just helping women recover from burnout and overwhelm by creating a plan of self-care. And that is, it's kind of pretty simple, and it's a lot of what I explained already.
Yeah. And your vision, where do you see this business going? How do you see yourself providing the services, first of all? Do you think um, you're going to stay in this realm of just dealing with burnout and overwhelm, or do you think you're going to branch out into maybe other areas that people struggle with?
Um, for now, I'll probably stay in burnout. But I'm also pretty decent at goal setting and
Yeah.
um for other people. I'm not always the greatest for myself. Um, but also like showing them steps and things like that. And so I think eventually I'll put out like a small course that is related to that, because
Yeah.
part of what I do with burnout and overwhelm can be tied into that. But goal setting is one of those things that,
Yeah.
again, we talk about, but we don't actually break it down into what that is.
Right.
I, I don't know. I know eventually I'd want to do like a main course, but first I kind of need to spend some time, more time with clients, and just to see what is what's needed, because I don't want to
Yeah.
put something out and then
Yeah.
like, oh, I need this, so I've spent all this time on this and it's more this.
Yeah.
But businesses do evolve over time, and even my photography business had evolved and has evolved. And so I'm kind of excited to see where God's going to take it. And um, it could be, hey, I end up in something completely different.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but that's the beauty of business, because you can pivot and go with it as you need.
Absolutely. Yes. So how do you normally handle your clients? Like, what's the normal setting like? Is it in person? Is it through Zoom now? Is it a little bit of both? I know you said you have an online workshop with the phone, taking the quality pictures with
Yeah.
the phone. Do you think you'll be doing online workshops for your life coaching business also?
Not thought about workshops for life coaching, but hey, that could be a great idea.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure, I could see the goal setting being an online workshop.
Yeah.
Right now, most mine are, if someone is local and they would want to meet in person,
Yeah.
I would probably do that, but it is all through Zoom at
Okay.
the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and it just makes it a little easier for both of us. Um,
Totally.
and get like these crazy ideas, because I draw, and so I have my whiteboard that I pull out and do all that. The
Yeah.
first time I did, I used my iPad and it glared weird and she couldn't see, and it was, so we just used like the old fashioned whiteboard thing.
Yeah. Yeah. How funny.
So, but yeah, for now it'll probably all be online. I don't know, I kind of vision someday maybe speaking
Mhm.
like,
Yes.
uh,
Absolutely.
so
I love
it's
that.
it's always something that like I never, not that I thought I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
but I've done, I've spoken, I think the largest crowd was like 1,500
Yeah.
for 1 minute. And it seems like each time my audience gets bigger. So
Yeah.
there seems to be a theme here.
Yeah.
Um, and so, not that I'm asking for it by any means, God, but I see myself eventually doing some speaking, whether
Yeah.
it's small workshops or something larger.
That's
And who
awesome.
knows
I
where
can
it's going
see
to
you
go
doing
with.
it too. I can envision it with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll
Totally.
have you with me.
Yes. Yes. We can tag team it.
Yes.
I love it. So I already know what drives you about your business and the value you bring to people. That just oozes out of you. I know the last time we hung out, we went to Longwood Gardens. We talked
Mhm.
about all how much it really means to you to help others and bring value to
Yeah.
others. I think that's always been a quality of yours. I can remember in
Mhm.
Milton Hershey, you've always been that way. And I think a lot of that comes with being a big sister too. And
Probably.
yeah, and the experience that you went through, like you all went through, the culture shock of Milton Hershey, but you being
Yeah.
the eldest and then you going there first and then you being in the student home by yourself first, it's such a awakening and, hard learning experience. So I think a lot of times when we go through a lot of struggle, naturally, like we want to relate to others, or if we see someone else struggling in similar ways, we naturally want to be like, hey, this is what I learned, let me
Yeah.
guide you through this. So I've always really seen that quality in you for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Some of,
yeah, go ahead.
so I say some of it I think is a family thing. Like my family, even my extended family, especially my mom's side, is very helpful. And like, it's just, it seems like it's like a something that just has been passed down
Yeah.
from generations. But then it also has to be, you have to be able to pick that up in order for it to continue.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And what a blessing for it to be, equality in your family,
yeah.
and for them to be able to even pass that down to you guys, a good quality. We say the same thing in our family. We always say, I don't know my dad much, but we always say, Mama, we all got a heart of gold like you. My mom has like heart of gold. Like she will, if she sees someone hungry, she'll go and cook them up a feast, and they could be a complete stranger. She'll give the jacket off of her back. She's just that way. And we all, like all of us have all of the same tendencies. Like a
Yeah.
lot of us even created like a hero complex,
Yeah.
which is not so good. But we say the same thing, like, Mama, without like, you're a great mom because we all became like you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, what do you think has been your biggest challenge so far in creating your businesses? As far as creating your businesses, what do you think where your has been your greatest challenge so far?
Probably myself. That and the burnout experience of not knowing, realizing that I don't want to do photography forever, as in a sole income. But myself, because I there's so many, I think of like when I went to start my photography business, I would say, well, there's so many photographers out there and they do the same thing, and and people are like, just start.
Yeah.
And then I had the idea of, I think we've talked about before, my rocking chair stories, where I interview usually elderly, as seniors, like elderly, and get to know their story and just create a book with their story. And so it's just something that, like, if I had never started, I would have never had the idea of
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's just my own, like, even with life coaching, it's like, do, do I think I can do that? Like, do I have to go get a certificate and do I have to do all that? But, and then I think about, wait, I have 2 degrees. I have 10 years of experience. So, maybe someday I'll get a certificate in life coaching, but I I think I have what I need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um so it's just so often I stand in my own way because I doubt myself, like the whole imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Or I've had, my friend and I just did a podcast episode where we talked about fear, and she talked about fear of failure and I talked about fear of success.
Yeah.
And so
Great.
my thing was fear of success. Like, wait, what if this actually works?
Yeah.
And what if it works, what does that mean? And so it was one of those things. And during the podcast, I realized, as a child, to avoid disappointment, I would wish for the opposite of what I wanted.
Yes.
So if I wanted this pen, I would wish not to have this pen. Yes, so when I get the pen, it's a good surprise. If I didn't get a pen, I had the disappointment. And so if I wished for the opposite of what I wanted, then I didn't have to go through the disappointment of not getting it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where my fear of success comes from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so crazy, and so complex. But like, that's part of, like, a child growing up in financial poverty.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, like, we didn't have as kids because my parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And we didn't have all these extra things that some of our friends did.
Yeah.
And so to counteract that, I learned, it's kind of a crazy psychology thing,
Yeah.
but
It's funny. It's what the length our brain will go to help us cope with
yeah,
the real root of what's going on. We'll create all
yeah,
these other like turns and twists, so I won't get the disappointment. I'll believe this or I'll hope for this. It's amazing And it's all like the work of our complex brain trying to protect us from any further trauma or pain. It's pretty
Oh yeah.
incredible. Yeah. But the fact that, now that you're older, to be aware of those things that, that you used to do or even still do now,
Yeah.
the first learning point is that self-awareness, which is awesome for you to have attained that first. Lots of people don't even get to that initial self-awareness of an issue or a thought
Yeah.
process. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm a thinker and sometimes an overthinker to my detriment.
And that may be why you got the most quiet award. You were just too busy
Probably.
thinking as opposed to talking.
I really don't care, but I just think it's kind of funny now because people who see me one-on-one, especially, or if I'm in a crowd that I'm comfortable in, they were like, "You're not shy," but I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
throw me in a new situation or in a new crowd or something I'm not comfortable with, I will shut down so fast. Like,
You'll see you go right back into the shell. That's
yes,
also become a great coping mechanism for you. You're like, I
yes,
mastered that one.
yes.
So with all of that, all that you've learned about yourself and while being on this journey, what are two pieces of advice you'd give to someone else starting their entrepreneurial journey?
All right. For one is surround yourself with people. It can get very lonely. I found that out when I wasn't working in a traditional 9 to 5, like I'm not having a full-time job. I realized I missed the office environment, like as in just the camaraderie that
Yeah.
comes with it. I actually was thinking about starting my own co-working space,
Yeah. That's
but
a good industry.
yeah, but it's a good thing I didn't because pandemic hit like 6 months later.
Yeah.
And I've actually found an online community that does co-working now. And so it was just something that like I learned I really had to dig myself in with other entrepreneurs and connecting with and being intentional,
Yeah.
because sometimes your family and friends aren't the ones who are supporting you the most.
Mhm.
And it's not anything. I want to be careful how I say it, but like it's they're sometimes more of a hurdle than they are
Yeah,
um,
totally.
a help.
Yeah.
Um, and they don't mean it to be that way, but that
Right.
sometimes it does happen that way.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other piece of advice is asking for help.
Mhm.
Um, there's a reason I pay my accountant.
Yeah.
And someday I'm paying a bookkeeper.
Yep.
Um, you know, I I can be a numbers person, but it's not my strength. Like it's
Yeah.
not something that um I love creating spreadsheets and making them beautiful and doing formulas and all that. So you would think I would love to do my own numbers. I
Yeah.
hate it. I
Yeah.
hate it. Um, but then also like hiring a coach. Like I did hire 2 coaches in the last 2 years. And just asking for that help is probably one of the most we think we have to do all on our own.
Right.
We don't. And I'm saying that from a woman who's very independent,
Mhm.
and very, I will go to great lengths not to ask for help.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I learned I had to ask for help because I was only holding myself back,
Right.
um, from realizing that, hey, if I ask someone for help with bookkeeping or accounting, then that time I've spent trying to figure that out, I
Right.
can be speaking to or sharing or do marketing or something else that I'm stronger in.
Right.
And
Absolutely. And
yeah,
that's actually a great quality to have as an entrepreneur. A lot of times, most entrepreneurs, they get so emotional about their business that they want to control everything. And sometimes it's more of a financial point where, they don't want to take any further money to pay out towards something. But a lot of
yeah,
times not doing those things is the hurdle. And it is what's holding you back because you were not meant to become your own CPA, accountant, bookkeeper,
yes,
researcher, marketer, plus the initiator, you that the entrepreneur's job is to be the thinker and the doer of other things that continue to progress forward. A lot of the maintenance stuff should be allocated to the people who that's their, forte. They went to school for that, or that's what they solely want to do.
Right.
That means everything else. Yeah. And that's good that you've learned that early, because that
Yeah.
thing helps also explode your business, because now you have the time, the mental energy to put towards growing and progressing. Yeah. Expand.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Good for you. Those are great pieces of advice to give. And the power of associations is so important. I mean, to
Hmm.
have people that are like-minded, even, who can encourage and motivate you on this journey. A lot of times, with family, like you said, they don't mean it. A lot of it is out of fear. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you don't want to go to the traditional path? Are you sure this is going to work? So it kind of feeds your own, root of not believing in yourself sometimes. So you got to be really weary of that. So it's great that you were, again, aware of that, and were able to do what's necessary to get past it. Super important. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was on my, like, those 20 months where I was doing all that random stuff,
Yeah.
I felt I was a COVID screener. I was a florist. I was a dog and house sitter. So I started a dog and house sitting business unintentionally, which I'm now trying to get out of.
Yeah.
I was a life coach. I was a photographer, like a social media manager.
Yeah.
Um, all these things, graphics, created graphics, all these things. And so in those 20 months, like, I had family say to me, like, when are you getting a real job?
Yeah.
Or they get real excited when I had an interview for
Yeah.
something. And my grandmother did this to me. Because I had an interview with Milton Hershey. I actually had two
Yeah.
last fall. And
I remember you told me about those. Yeah.
yeah, and
Like,
the
you decide
one,
not to take.
yeah, the one didn't work out, and the other one I stepped away from because it wasn't the right time or the right job.
Yeah.
And so um my grandmother was so excited for this interview, and I said to her, at that time I had my tent job still, yet it ended shortly after that. And she's like, now you're gonna have a job. And I said to her, I'm like, I have one. Like, I was working as a temp as a nursing home.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, yeah, but for a couple of days a week. And I think it was her way of expressing concern for me
Right.
without, like, saying, hey, I'm worried about how you're going to financially. But like, I had several family members like, how are you paying your bills? And
Yeah.
I finally, with some of them, I got to the point of like, until you're paying my bills, stop
Stop
asking
asking.
that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I know you're concerned,
Yeah.
but don't keep asking me,
Right.
when are you going to pay, when are you getting a real job?
Right.
Because, like, for me, my real job was all those random jobs
Right.
and all those
Right.
things I was doing.
Yeah.
um, and so I didn't sit at home forever. Like, I mean, there were days I was at home, but I didn't sit at home and twiddle my thumb in that
Right.
time. And so it's just there's the question of, when are you getting a real job, or what's next?
Yeah.
Oh, that one hit a nerve too
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
um anyway, there's my rant on that.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think so many people are right there with you, because it doesn't just happen in, people's career, or, how are you making money, or when are you going to this? It's also, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids? When are
Yeah.
and it's like, why are you worried about it? Like, are you going to be here right next to me handling this with me? Like, and I think that's like the way of, so much of our cultures that, very traditional. It's the same thing that how
Yeah.
it was for me. When are you going to be married? When are you going to have kids? And it's just like, God, there is no real, like, right answer, and it's the same thing with a career, with a job, or anything. There's no real right answer. And I think a lot of it, like you said, was, she's concerned for your well-being, but
Yeah.
things are different now. The world has evolved from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, So people can get by financially doing a multitude of little small
Yeah.
things here and there while they're pursuing the big thing, and that's what most people do. I think a lot of times our family and previous generations, it's hard for them to grasp because that's never something that they've ever done. It's always been like,
Yeah.
go to school, get a 45-year job, you know,
Yes.
stay at the same
Yeah.
place for 40 years and then retire, was like the
Yeah.
most traditional. That was like the right way. It's so fun
Yeah.
to go through that. So what do
I've
you
been
think?
single. Huh?
Mhm.
I was gonna say I've been single so long that my family quit asking when I'm getting married. So um
They're like, we'll give up on
occasionally
that one.
I'm like, occasionally I get the question, but they're like, oh, she's an old maid now. Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah. She's
25.
past the limit. Yeah, she'll marry some cats. Next thing you know,
Yes.
you'll meet Mr. Right in like 6 months. They'll be like, oh my God.
Oh,
They're like, on to the next question now. We'll give this one a rest and then we'll move on to this one.
and we'll come back.
We'll come back. We'll circle back. So what do you think, talking about culture, what do you think from your upbringing at MHS, what do you think impacted you there? How do you think your upbringing there impacted you as an adult now?
I would say I appreciate diversity so much. And I've learned to, this is recently with, especially with the unrest and stuff our country has been facing. Um, it's interesting because I, even though as a white female,
Yeah.
I don't understand what it's like to be a Black male in our country.
Yeah.
But just because that's not my experience, it does not make it real for someone else.
Right.
And that I should never negate their experience because that's not what I experience. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, I think Milton Hershey gave me that just diversity, and like I love other cultures and language, and especially food, like from other places. Like if I'm not allergic to it and it's not too nasty, I'll try it. Like if you're not feeding me like crickets.
Yeah, yeah. Can't do the crickets.
Yeah. So it, with that is, I think some of it is also my family does love diversity, but
Yeah.
again, that is something that I think growing up in a predominantly white
Yeah.
area, and then growing up in a predominantly white culture, because
Yeah.
Mennonites have learned. So quick story, when I was in college, we went to the National Multicultural Conference. I went twice, and they broke us up into our races at one point so we could talk about our life experience as a white person, or as a Black, or they had them all. And then they had these third culture kids where it was like missionary kids or things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there as a white woman in this group and realizing my experience is not the same as a typical white child or person,
Right.
because I essentially grew up in a subculture within the United States.
Yeah.
I'm like, I probably fit better in with those third culture kids
Yeah.
than I do with a typical white. And so it was that, like, Milton Hershey is definitely giving me that diversity. One thing I added to this question was Milton Hershey taught me that we're all dealt a hand of cards in life. It is up to us whether we are going to play that to the best of our ability or throw that deck away and give up, or throw that hand away and give up. And it wasn't until I was in my professional career that came about. But, as Milts, we were all dealt with really, really hard things. And so it was up to each one of us, and our best is different from one person to another.
Yeah.
Like, you know, your best is different than what mine is,
Yeah.
and the next person. And so that is something that just because my best is here, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that someone else's is here. It could be here,
Right.
depending on their intellectual, even their experiences with trauma. Like
Yeah.
trauma affects so much.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's really like, I think a lot of Milts have learned to play that hand of cards to
Yeah.
the best of their ability.
Yeah.
Um, and that's always inspiring because you see so many Milts doing this and that, and like
Yeah.
a lot of us are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It just kind of funny. It like kind of plays in that hustle
Yeah.
thing. But it's just, you know, having that. Um, I didn't choose the cards that were given to me.
Right.
I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't choose what I went through. But on the other hand, I'm chosen not to allow those, for me not to be a victim, and for me, yes, they're part of my story and who I am, but they're not what they define me today.
Absolutely.
So
Yes, that's so true. Absolutely. I agree with all. It's funny. I always said you could put a mill, anywhere in the world and we will fit right on in. Yep. And probably have a story to follow someone else's story in the room because it's true. We were given that privilege to be able to live amongst each other in such a diverse environment. I mean, one student home could have 8 or 9 or 10 different cultures living inside of it. It's incredible.
yeah,
It really did put us way ahead intellectually, racially, mentally, being able to converse with any person that we sit in front of, being able to relate with anyone that we meet it's such a incredible quality that they gave us all. I
yeah.
always said milts are like chameleons. We can blend in absolutely anywhere, anywhere. And I always said you could drop a milt anywhere in the world and they will be resourceful and they will be able to live somehow, some way. Yeah.
They'll make some money somehow.
Yeah. They will
Yeah.
make it happen. Yep. And I'm forever grateful for that. Yeah. Such an awesome blessing what we got. Yeah. So with that said, what do you think being a milt means to you?
Um, I had one word, and that's family. Like it really is, because um it doesn't matter how long I've seen you or how long it's been or whatever. Like you and I, like we really didn't talk that much in high school,
Yeah.
but like last fall we got together and like it was like we were friends
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And I find that with a lot of Milts. And so this summer, or no, actually January, my class experienced a death, and it was just seeing how we all just drew together very quickly,
Yeah.
like the evening that we found out.
Yeah.
um I mean, I don't even know how long the call was. It was a very long call, but it was just one of those things where like I know that like if I'm going through a really hard day
Yeah.
and I don't have anybody to share it with, or whoever, or if it's a Milt, I can say, hey, like life's hard right now, life's
Yeah.
tough. Can you either listen? Can you pray if you do that? Like,
Yeah.
can you just be there, like not try to fix me, but just be like um in whatever capacity that they're able to. And so like for me, that is family right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's also true that anywhere you go, you are bound to run into a milt or have a milt to be able to reach out to. And
Yeah.
that's what I love too. It's such family. Like a lot of times, especially now as a mom, and I'm in my mid 30s, it's harder and harder to make friends, brand new friends. And we just moved to Lancaster from Philly, from California. So it's like kind of starting all over with a whole new set of people. So the very first people I started reaching out to when I moved back to Pennsylvania from California were mills.
Yeah.
So any city I go to, I'm like, okay, what Milts are here that I could hang out with? I probably do that, or I do that before I even start to try to make any other new friends. It's
Yeah.
always, let me see what Milts are around so I can get connected with them. And that is so priceless to me that we have that type of extended family and that opportunity. Phenomenal. Yeah. So, two more questions before I
Yes.
let you go. What advice do you think you would give to your younger self?
One is be willing to take chances, because my personality, I have to think everything through, and and then when I can't think the steps, not because I can't, but I just can't foresee it, I like almost go into decision paralysis. And so sometimes it's just simply just taking a leap, like I did when I left social work that in May of 2019.
Mm.
Um, but it's just be willing to take chances,
Yeah.
and not let fear hold me back. The other piece is don't take out debt I don't need. Um, Student
Yeah.
loans.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still paying those off.
Yep.
And so like I now, like when I talk to like someone going into college, I'm like, they will offer you thousands and thousands of
Oh my
dollars
gosh.
more than you
Yes.
need.
Yes.
Don't take more than you need, because
Exactly.
like if someone would have
Yep.
told me all that, and
Mhm.
where not that I'm like an awful financial situation, but
Yeah.
I have a lot more debt and student loans than I would want to have.
So,
And it's like, if I needed 1,000, I should have just took 1,000 instead of the three.
right.
And so it
Yep.
was just, don't take more debt than you have to.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really
and
great advice. Yeah. Because they do, as soon as we get to college, that's the first thing they want to help us immediately get is debt.
yeah,
No,
well,
uh,
and I'm a first generation college student.
yeah.
So my mom had done some like technical schools, but I'm the first one to graduate in my high school with
Yeah.
a high school diploma, and the first one to graduate with
Yeah.
a college degree,
Yeah. Good for you.
or like a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And so my dad didn't know
Yeah.
what a FAFSA was and all
Yeah.
that, and so um, those are things that like if I knew what
Yeah.
I knew, if I know now what I knew, I'm trying to say, like,
Yep.
it's not coming out. But if I had known, know now back then,
Yeah.
uh, I would have just done with less,
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
So
Because it does. It's like the worst debt in the world, and we'll all be paying it off the rest of our life, probably. Because
yes.
that's how they do get you. Even if you want to pay it off sooner, they either don't let you or it's at a ridiculous interest rate. Because in the end, they just want you to pay that interest over that long period of time. It's a big pothole that they want to drive everybody into. Yeah. And it's true. That's the type of education that the newer generations need to start to learn and be more aware of. Colleges in general, I think, are changing completely,
Mm,
as should these loans. Hopefully, people are saying it often enough and loud enough, so hopefully, they'll start to make some changes for the kids moving forward, and some, recommendations to help alleviate some of the debt that's already existing. I mean, America's in trillions of dollars of debt, and
yeah.
half of that is student loan. It's ridiculous. So it's a very
maybe
good
that'll
advice.
maybe that'll be my other course.
Yeah. Yes. How to avoid major student loan debt. Yes.
Yes.
Live below your means.
I
Yeah.
think I'll have to bring you and Chris in
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. He talks about it daily. So he could definitely tag team that with you also.
Oh,
And that other piece of advice, taking risks and just, you know, being decisive is so crucial. And I
yeah.
think a lot of us in general have come to hard decision making. Like people have lost that skill to just make this decision, stick with it. I think there's so many options now,
Yeah.
constantly. choices and options all over the place, you know, so much marketing, so much this. People are like, they don't even know what they want anymore. So yeah, that the decision paralysis is huge. And that's another quality of an entrepreneur. Like they make decisions quickly, they go with it, they take risks, like you said, even if it turns out to be a failure, at least you did it. You exercise that muscle it takes to be a decision maker and to go for it without overthinking, like you said. Yeah, it's really good. So, last question before I let you go. What do you think your overall vision is for your legacy and your future generations?
So this one had me think a little bit, but I want people to look back on my life and say, she lived for God first and glorified him in all she did. And we saw him through her without preaching, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
And I've always wanted to live my life in that way. I'm not perfect at it, but hey,
None of us are.
I
We all
try.
short.
And then I want that the second thing would be that people say she spent time with those she loved, like built those relationships, because relationships are so important, and that she made a difference in the world, whether that's through my traditional career or whether that's through my businesses or just, hey, I saw someone and I smiled, or maybe I went to the city and just said hi to someone on the street,
Yeah.
and giving them a hi and just saying, hey, here's a bag of snacks. This is for you. And just in that moment, that smallest thing could make the biggest thing.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So a legacy of kindness, thoughtfulness, and giving is such a great legacy to leave behind. A lot of times, people don't, when people pass, usually it's and especially if they built like a huge legacy, the first thing is not, wow, they were so successful. It's always like the other things that they were. Oh, they were so funny, or they were so nice, or oh, I remember when they did this. They used to make me laugh a lot. They were really good
yeah.
at this. It never is really remembering someone's monetary value or, the materials they left behind. It's always those character building qualities that people will always remember in your
Mhm.
legacy. And yeah, that kindness and giving is one of those things I've learned is probably one of the hardest but most valuable qualities any of us can work to have,
Yeah.
because it's hard to give sometimes. It's hard sometimes to be a giver because a lot of times we're thinking ourselves scarcity, or I want this, or what if I don't have enough, but
Mhm.
when we start to practice that giving in our nature, and not just things but of our time, of our energy, that all is so much more valuable than anything we can keep.
Yeah.
So really awesome legacy to leave behind. So last thing, no more questions. You're all done. Thank you so much for enlightening us all. But before I let you go, I do want you to shout out any of your businesses that you want people to follow, any websites that you have, any social media tags that you want people to be aware of. I'm going to put it all in the description all too, but I want you to go ahead and shout it out before we go.
Yeah. So for life coaching, it's MarilynLWeaver.com is my website. And Instagram, I think, is Marilyn L Weaver. Yes. And then Facebook is Marilyn L Weaver 1, I believe, because apparently there's another Marilyn L Weaver
Oh,
on Facebook.
wow.
And then Marlo Co is Marlo and Co. .us. I am starting a separate Instagram for that, just because I don't want to confuse my people, and haven't really started it yet, but it's there, so you can follow me there. And I am going to hopefully in the next day or two put something on there so people know that it's me.
Yeah, put your picture.
And then My podcast is Broken Beauty Podcast. Currently, we are only on BuzzFeed, but we are hoping to go Apple and Spotify very soon here. And on Instagram and Facebook, it is Broken Beauty Podcast. So
Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much again for being on the podcast. I learned so much about you, more than I was able to learn at Longwood. So I'm praying for you, especially
thank you.
these next couple of days. And I can't wait to see what your journey ahead looks like.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. We'll have to do dinner sometime soon.
Yes, yes. You let me know whenever you're ready. I would love.
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.